Good morning and welcome to chapter 6 of hospitality today, Understanding the World of Hotels. This is a very important chapter. There is a lot of long questions as well as short questions that comes from this chapter, so please pay attention. So today we will discuss the different types of guests that we find in a hotel. We will also categorize hotels with regards to the prices that we pay, ownership, as well as where it is located. So as we know, hotels is a very dynamic industry and it undergoes many changes as we speak with regards to technology, visitors and the resorts. So also the demand is affected by its economic futures, the way where it's located, the regions, and so forth. So each year, the ownership is also changed. Back in the day, normally hotels were started by an owner and also run by the owner, but today it's completely different. We've got chains, we've got franchises, we've also got management companies that operates hotels for owners or for investors. So we will talk about that a little bit later as well. So there's many trends too, um, you know, technology and all of that. So how things have changed from then until now, you'll find in your textbook. The reason why I don't put it in the slide is the textbook every month, every year can be outdated. So there is information in the textbook, but online there is so much. If you go onto YouTube and so on, there's so many industry trends. I mean, how the hotels are owned, technology-wise, location and all of that. If you do a little bit of research on the Ice Hotel, for example, I mean, who would have thought that you could get a hotel made of ice blocks? And who would even go and sleep in an ice hotel? But there is people that would like to experience something like that. So there is a lot of trends today in this industry. Then with regards to going green, many hotels, many properties have showed concern for the environment in the way that they conduct business. If you think about saving water, many hotels have implemented or changed their shower heads, for example. You used to get those huge big shower heads that felt like a waterfall if you stand underneath it, and you never realize how much water they actually use if you shower underneath it. So they changed that to those high pressure head showers, which is much smaller. That actually uses a lot less water. And then with regards to energy saving, a lot of hotels have installed solar panels where they generate energy through natural sunlight instead of using energy. And a lot of places have also take part of material selection where they use previously used recycling material in their goods, as well as indoor environmental quality. And that I mean by having natural plantation inside of their hotels, like real plants, real trees, real fauna and flora, because as we know, plants give out oxygen, give off oxygen, so it improves the oxygen levels in the hotel. So that's why. So if you get a question in your test and in exam, how does hotels improve or take part of the whole Going Green initiative or show concern for the environment following the LEED initiative? You have to answer it by those five points: sustainable site development, and you have to answer that by saying they don't ruin or damage the local area where they have their property at. Water savings, you will say that they, like I've mentioned with a shower head, or you can mention the toilet, different toilets, like back in the day. they had, I still remember, the old-fashioned toilets had the water tank or the big septic tank behind you was very, very big, and it only had one flush setting. So if you flushed it, that whole septic tank behind you flushed all of that big bowl of water. Now you have a smaller septic tank, and it has an option of it's like a half moon and then a full circle. A half moon also obviously flushes only half of the bowl, and a full moon flushes the full bowl. And then energy efficiency is your materials. You've got your LED light bulbs, your energy sufficient materials, your equipment and things like that that uses less electricity. Material selection, like I said previously, used recycled materials, and then your indoor environmental quality. So it can be a 10-mark question where you have to name and explain, or just a 5-mark question where it's just to name the 5.
We can sleep on pillows made from recycled
Before I
plastic,
play this clip for
eat with
you,
cutlery made from
this
potato,
clip is all
and
about
donate money to help protect a rainforest.
CNN
The list
reporter
goes on
that
and
did a
on,
little bit of
eco-initiatives that hotels are creating
an
to reflect
interview
our
with
concern for the
hotels that
environment.
actually do
They're doing it
say
because
that
everyone else is doing it. They don't want to get
they
left
are
behind.
taking
And they're
part
also
in
doing
this
it because
whole
they think
green
it's
initiative.
going to be
They
profitable
say
for
that
them.
they
So they're
are
doing the
actually
very
a
bare
green
minimum
hotel.
that they can
So
to appeal to
remember
these
what I said with
travelers.
those 5
But
points in the
it really is
previous
nothing more than a
slide.
marketing gimmick.
They have to
It
actually
seems some
take part
hotels
in
are
those
scrambling
5
too
steps
quickly
to
onto the
be a
eco
green
bandwagon,
hotel.
and
So
that's the
this
problem.
reporter
I don't
went to
think there's enough
different
education on
properties and
how
looked at what they
a
actually do
24-hour
to,
a day
to actually be
business
part of the whole green
with filled with bedrooms, with
initiative.
35
So you
areas
can
of
have a
business
look
within one
at that.
building can look at environmental impacts. It's not even been addressed in universities and hotel management schools.
There isn't even an international environmental standard or hotel eco-index that we can refer to. We all know about that little card telling us to be eco-friendly and to reuse our towels. What we don't know is whether or not the energy saved is any better than recycling waste. For instance, from kitchen to compost heap. Food scraps from the Marriott Hotel in San Francisco eventually end up here in the Sainsbury's Vineyard in the Napa Valley. The wine that's produced is sold back at the hotel.
Approximately 30% of this hotel, Marriott Hotel's waste ends up in the compost. Another 10,000 plus pounds a week is recycled. Bottles, paper, plastic bottles, cardboard.
At $65 a bottle, do we really want to spend that amount to offset our eco-guilt?
In this economic climate where the main priority is room rates, it's not just expensive wine that's off the list. Even if a hotel is selling mineral water for $10 that goes to a good cause, many of us will be turning on the tap instead.
The environment is temporarily perhaps taking a back seat, you could argue. It's much more important now that you have the opportunity to innovate that you actually take the lead.
Innovate, not inundate. With quirky initiatives that go beyond reusing towels, hotels shouldn't give skeptics more ammunition.
For some, it will be hollow. So a little bit of scratching beneath the surface, doing a little bit of research. One day we will have an eco-index that lets you compare apples with apples, and then you know which hotel is actually living that promise.
And until that happens, those customers looking for a hotel that's really green will continue to be left in the dark. Aisha Dergahi, CNN, London.
Okay, so here we start with the different types of guests that we find at hotels. Now, if you remember the previous couple of chapters that we've covered already, we spoke about the target market. Now, these are your target markets. These are your different types of hotel guests. Now, remember that you can have all of the different types of hotel guests, or you can cater to one or two of the different types of hotel guests. For this, I need you guys to know the characteristics of the guest and also the different type of factors that are in play when a guest actually choose what type of hotel they would like to stay at. So the first type of guest that visits a hotel, and a very popular guest that we find at hotels is your corporate individual. So also known as your business traveler or your business individual. Now, corporate, as we know, stands for business, and individual is one person. So it's normally one individual or business individual that travels. They only travel for business purposes, and they are not part of any group. So it's normally an owner of a company. Their characteristics are that they normally stay for 1 night or 2 nights, depending on the meeting, how long the meeting is that they are attending. They stay in a hotel 3 to 7 times a year. The factors that determine the hotel that they select to stay, or that they choose to stay at, is obviously location. So depending on where they're going to have their meeting, they would obviously choose a hotel close to where the meeting site is. If the meeting is taking place at a hotel, they would most likely choose to stay or try to stay at that hotel because it's more convenient. Also, another factor is the previous experience with that hotel. If they had a positive experience, they would obviously return back. Negative experience, the chances are they wouldn't go back. The price and the value, because they are not staying there for that long, they're not going to pay thousands of rands or dollars to stay for 1 or 2 nights. They do, however, want value for money. They have certain requirements. They want Wi-Fi, quick Wi-Fi, so good internet access. They would most likely want business facilities, those kind of things. So they want to pay a price, a good price. I'm not saying they're going to choose a cheap hotel. They would prefer a good price and value for money, obviously. Also, the previous experience with the hotel group is a big factor here. If they stayed at a Hilton hotel in Johannesburg and they had the worst service and the worst experience ever, they obviously are not going to choose one in Cape Town. Okay, so that's a big factor. The reputation of the hotel also plays a big factor. Bad reputation, wouldn't choose it. Good reputation, will choose it. And then obviously a recommendation of a friend or an associate. Let's say they've never been to Germany and they now have been invited to go to a conference, to attend a meeting or a conference in Germany, and that they know a friend or a colleague have been to Germany before, and they stayed at a hotel or a place, a guest house or whatever. So they will ask that associate or friend, when you went to Germany, where did you stay at? You mentioned that it was so nice and the service was so great. Where did you stay at? So that means what I mean with a referral or a recommendation. So that is your corporate individual. This is a very nice long question on its own as well. Then the next type of traveler that we get is your corporate group. So this is also for business, but they are more than one. So it can be 2, it can be 5. It's more than a couple of people, so 10 or 14 or so. So they also travel purely for business purposes. They attend small conferences or meetings and so on, also at a hotel. They stay for 2 to 4 days, depending on the duration of the meeting. And they normally share rooms. They obviously won't stay one person per room, because they normally are from one business. So it won't be viable for that company to pay that much money for so many rooms. So they'll couple up the employees. So it'll be 2 per room or 3 per room, depending on the size of the hotel rooms. So the characteristics also are they favor hotels that offers intimate meeting rooms and private dining facilities. So these corporate groups don't necessarily want to dine with the rest of the hotel guests. They prefer to dine in their groups. So that's where you have your banqueting rooms and so on. So they would like to be secluded from all the other hotel guests. Then you get your big sizes. So these are your convention and your association group. What makes them different from the previous one is the size. They are thousands. So hotels love these guys. Why? Because they can literally book out the whole hotel. Okay, that is why hotels offer them extremely competitive rates. Why? Because they can come back. Remember, a convention normally takes place every year, so it's annually. And if they offer them an excellent package every year, or one excellent package, and they get good competitive rates and so on, they know they come every year. They know that this group will come back next year again. So they also share rooms and they stay 3 to 4 days. So this hotel will make a killing for 4 days, and it's every year. Then we have us, the leisure travelers that goes on holidays. Normally we travel with families. We go on sightseeing trips to visit our friends or other family. Never stay more than one night. Maybe you can stay 2 days because we travel. The leisure travelers travel to different places or destinations. So you stay and then you travel to the next destination and you stay over at another hotel. And you travel to the next destination, you stay at another hotel. So remember, these are the travelers where the hotels get their money from. Because they travel in peak season, they pay the highest rates. Then you have your long-term or relocation guests. Now, these are individuals that is relocating to another area. Maybe it is somebody that is relocating from one country to another country, and they still haven't found permanent housing. Or maybe their house is being built. So they are seeking temporary housing at the hotel. So they are staying on for maybe weeks or months. So they need limited cooking facilities because they most likely are eating in majority of the time. Okay, so they are long-term stay or relocation guests. Then you have your airline-related guests. Now, normally this is a hotel that is located close to a airline, but it could be also a hotel that is contracted with a specific airline because they are going to host or cater for the airline's guests. So it might be guests that needs emergency accommodation or flights that are delayed. Then you have government and military travelers. Now, lucky for them, the president and the ministers and everybody like that, they get a specific allowance. So they have a fixed per diem allowance where they are allowed to spend it on traveling and lodging. So they have negotiated acceptable rates with their organization to offer very low prices for them. So certain hotels, those travelers will always go back to those hotels because they are contracted basically with the government or the military for those people or travelers to have negotiated very good prices for them. Because remember, for example, the president, he's got a specific amount of allowance for traveling at a specific hotel. He goes and he stays there, so it goes off his allowance. Then we have a regional getaway guest. It is normally for commercial and convention groups on weekdays, but it also can be for a couple, a husband and a wife, that just needs to break away for the weekend, leave the kids at grandma and grandpa for the weekend and just get away. So it's regional. It's like me living in Joburg and then me and my husband going away to Magalies or Pilansberg. That's very close by, just for the weekend, if you get what I mean. So they normally promote special weekend packages to the entire nearby residents to leave the kids at home. Normally these packages also includes meals and entertainment. Okay, so that's what the regional getaway guest is. And then you get the guest mix. That obviously is including all of the different types of guests that I've mentioned. Now, if you have a hotel with all of these guests together, it can be a problem. For example, if you have on one floor a business guest, a corporate individual, and next to him or her is a leisure traveler, so a family that's visiting friends or family, or they're just coming for sightseeing. The business individual wants to go to bed early because he's got a meeting early, or he's need to catch a flight to China or whatever very early. And the leisure family, the family travelers, I mean, they're on holiday, the kids are watching Netflix, the parents are having a drink, they are chatting up and listening to music, whatever. They're bothering the business traveler because he or she wants to go to bed early. You get what I'm saying? So it can be a problem. So yeah, so there is a variety of mixture guests, and hotels needs to, think it before they put them in their different rooms. Think about moving them away from each other and so forth. Okay, now we are going to categorize hotels. Now, the first category that I'll be talking about is location. So, hotels can be located anywhere. But remember, we also have luxury hotels, we've got economy hotels, budget hotels, all those kind of things. So you can get all of those type of hotels and be located anywhere as well. So that's why we are going to separate the different categories. So the first type of hotel under location is your center city. So that makes quite sense. Where is it located? It's in the middle of a city. An example in Johannesburg would be the Michelangelo. It's in the heart of Sandton. The next one is a resort hotel. Now, a resort, you always have to remember, is very big. Okay. The reason for that is because there's always some form of a physical activity thing attached to it. An example here with us is Sun City. Yeah, because if you think about it, there's the golf resort, the Valley of the Waves, and so on. Okay, so it's a resort, and it needs a lot of space. So that's why it's outside of Joburg. The next one is a suburban hotel. Think about the core word in suburban. It's suburb. So you will find it in a suburb. For example, in Centurion, you have the Centurion Lake Hotel. It is located in Centurion. Then you have the Highway Hotel. Highway Hotel is located close to a main highway. If you see the picture there, Sun One, it used to be called the Formula One, but it was bought over by Tsogosan, and it's now called the Sun One. It's located next to the highway because it is normally who stays there? It's travelers, people that travel far, people just need to rest and sleep over because they are tired for traveling, and it's not very expensive, but we'll get to prices now. Good, and then the next location that we have is airport. Where is it located? Close to an airport. Right. This is a little bit difficult to grasp. as I've mentioned, back in the day, hotels were opened by an individual, which is normally the owner. It was run by the owner. But today, things have changed. So the very first way that a hotel is owned is independently owned and operated. It's normally much smaller hotels, like a boutique hotel or a guest house, because it's way less rooms and smaller restaurants inside the hotel. Okay, so it's easier. But if you think about a 200, 300, 400 room hotel, and there's more than one, it's a chain, it's impossible for one person to run and operate it. Okay, and it's also a lot of money. It's very expensive. Good, so the next one, it's independently owned. So one person owns it, but it's leased to an operator. So somebody runs it for them. Also not a very big property. The next one, owned by a single entity or group that has hired a hotel management company to operate the property. So in chapter, I think it's 15, yes, we will talk about the management companies more in detail so that you understand what is the purpose, what do they do, and so forth. So basically what it means is a hotel management company is a company with expertise in how to run a hotel. Okay, they can operate one hotel, or they can operate a group of hotels, or a chain, or a franchise altogether. Okay, they normally hire, they run the hotel, they run all the accounts, they basically run the whole operation for you. Then it can be owned and operated by a chain. It can be owned by an independent investor or a group. Remember, it's very expensive to have a hotel, millions, billions, what I'm talking about, and then operated by a chain. Or it can be owned by an individual or a group and operated as a franchise of a chain. The franchise holder may be an individual or a management company. Right, the next, you need to know the definitions. We'll be able to differentiate between independent, a management company, and a hotel chain. So obviously we've touched on independent and chain a little bit, so it's very similar. So an independent hotel, as we know, it's not connected with anything else. It is an established hotel company which is owned by either a group of investors or an individual. Okay, but it's not connected with any other established hotel or company. It's individual, their own name, their own brand. As I've mentioned, a management company contracts with a hotel owner to operate the hotel. Okay, they basically sign a contract with the owner where they operate the hotel for the owner. They may or may not have the hotel owner. They may or may not have hotel owners to operate the hotel, and they're basically paid by a combination of fees plus a share of revenues and profits. That's how they get paid. But we'll talk about the contract, the management contract, a little bit more in detail. Hotel chains is obviously a group of affiliated hotels. A franchise is an entity belonging to a larger corporate body than one can purchase and operate to one's own standards and specifications. And then a referral system is made up of independent properties or small chains that have grouped together. So I want you to know this basically for like a section B question. Okay, so now we will look at categories of hotel according to price. So the term segmenting, I want you to remember when we categorize hotels by the prices that they charge. Obviously, we pay different prices for hotels, and that is when we look at the different services that they provide. So a luxury hotel offers different services, and an economy hotel obviously, for example, have no services, and that's why they are so cheap. So there's three different levels of segmenting. The first type of hotel that we'll discuss is your limited service. So there's two under the limited service, economy and budget. So economy being the lowest. Economy is the lowest rate hotel, and the reason for that is because they offer no services. So it's literally just for a guest that wants to have accommodation and then leave whenever they're ready to leave. So there's no housekeeping every day, there's no restaurant, there's no extra facilities. And that is what makes a hotel more expensive. It's the extra services that they have. So for instance, if a hotel has on the premises a gym, a spa, or in the room they have a TV, a plasma screen, for instance, all the extra facilities and services that they have, the more expensive they get. So that's why we segment the different hotels. Then we have a budget hotel. This is slightly higher. So you pay slightly higher. The reason for that is because they've got limited service. So they do offer some kind of service, most likely housekeeping. The next level is your mid-priced. This is your full service and limited service. So if you see what I mean there, limited service, so they offer some kind of service. Full service is full service, so they have housekeeping. They will most likely have a restaurant. They most likely have room service in their hotel. Okay, and this is very attractive for customers that would like to upgrade or trade up from the economy and budget segment, because they would like to have that extra service. And then we have the luxury or first class segment. This is obviously top of the price scale. So you pay for what you get. So they would most likely have a spa at the hotel or room service or all that extra facilities and services that you can obviously think of. Okay. Then we have other hotel categories. You have an all-suite hotel. Now, an all-suite hotel is very popular to extended stay travelers because it offers more space for guests. You also have conference facilities. Now, I know that a lot of hotels have conference facilities because business travelers is one of the most popular guests for most hotels. Okay, so they have meeting rooms, they've got boardrooms, they've got conference facilities. Now, there's different types of conference centers that we get, but we will talk about meeting rooms and conference centers a little bit more in detail in chapter 9. So there's 4 types of conference centers that we get. You get executive conference centers. These are mostly for your executives or your exco meetings, so your top management. Your corporate owned conference centers. So that is when a business basically has title to a meeting room or a business center. You have resort conference centers. Many times a resort actually has a meeting room because they can go away for a meeting, a weekend, and the family is actually allowed to go with the person that is attending the meeting. But they have to attend a meeting, let's say, on the Friday evening or the Saturday morning, and then the rest of the time they can spend and have fun. And then you have your college and university conference rooms. Obviously, they need to be meeting facilities, conference rooms for classrooms and for SRC and for the professors and those kind of people. Then we have timeshare properties. Now, there's a difference between timeshare and condominium, and I will explain this to you. So timeshare is for people that take their vacation every year at exactly the same time and at exactly the same place. Okay, so for example, every December at that specific property they go on holiday. That's when you have timeshare. So every December between, let's say, the 15th of December and the 2nd of January, this is Mr. Smith's holiday at Umhlanga Sands in Durban. He's got timeshare at the Umhlanga Sands between the 15th of December and the 2nd of January because he's got timeshare there. Okay, that's timeshare properties. Condominium hotel is where an investor takes title to that specific hotel room. It is their hotel room. Okay, they can choose to stay at that hotel room whenever they like. It's not like a timeshare where they can go to that room between that time in December. They are allowed to go to that room whenever they want to. But they need to tell management or hotel management of the times during the year when they won't use that rooms. Because obviously the hotel needs to rent that out or sell the room or make the room available to guests as well. Otherwise they will lose the money, even though it's still the investor's room, if that makes sense. Right, then we have other types of housing, which is senior housing, and that is when your grandparents need to, have assisted or living facilities, specific living facilities, retirement homes, and things like that. So there's different types of senior housing that we get. The first one is independent living units. Now, this is for your younger seniors. I would say between from 60 onwards. They are most likely still able to drive. They're still very independent. This type of living unit is most likely in a retirement village. They prefer to be in a secure area or in a retirement area, but it's almost like living in a flat. They are very able to move around. Some of them might still actually be able to work or are still working. They might just be able to retire or go into retirement. So they are still very independent. They don't need assistance or help. The next one is your congregate communities. So this is almost like when they are living, almost like in living units, but they all each have their own space to live in. It's their own secluded area, but they are almost like living in clusters, okay? And they are eating together, like in an eating hall and things like that. So they don't really need assistance, but it's almost like how can I put it? My mother-in-law actually lives in a place like that. It's not an aftercare or something like that. It's just easier to have them live in a place like that because they will be looked after when they actually do need help. It is there. Then assisted living facilities are for those elderly or senior people that can't bath on their own, that can't eat on their own, they can't really walk on their own. They're most likely in a wheelchair. They need assistance with the daily lives. And then your continuing care retirement communities is very sad. That's obviously for people that they most likely, it almost sounds like they're on their deathbed, really. So they most likely on a ventilator or something like that. So they need continuing care with a nurse and things like that. So they're completely dependent on help, the medical dependent, and so on. So those are your 4 types of senior housing. And the reason why we talk about it in this chapter is that they need managers to manage this, because obviously it's accommodation, it's housekeeping, it's food, and they need managers to manage these kind of facilities. So when you guys graduate and you are interested in this line of work, there is a possibility for you to go into this industry. Right, so who of you are interested in having your own hotel one day. Let me tell you, if your surname is not Oppenheimer or Robenheimer or any of those rich people, this won't be very easily able. So unless you have investors or unless you have saved up quite a lot of money, it's really very difficult to open your own hotel. So there's obviously a lot of things that you have to take into consideration when you plan for a new hotel, and we'll discuss that now. So we in this part we will talk about the whole development process and the planning of a brand new hotel. So obviously the most important thing that you need to look at is the site. Where you need to, it's all about that old saying about location, location, location. It's all about that. You need to have the best site possible on where you're going to have your hotel. So it needs to be accessible to the market. So your target market needs to reach you easily. So where is it located? It needs to be conveniently accessible to them, and it needs to be accessible by public transportation. And also you need to look at the type of your facility. What type of hotel are you? Are you a luxury hotel? Are you economy budget? Those kind of things. And also how big will you be? You know your size. Are you a resort? So where will you be located? Those kind of things. So that will depend on the site that you will be selected. Then you need to do a feasibility study. Now, feasible means, will the money that I put in, will there be a possible return on investment? Now, as I mentioned, if you don't have the capital to put in, you will most likely have investors. It might be an investor, or an investor, or it can be a group of investors. Nonetheless, they would like to see that millions or billions of money that they are giving you or investing in this business is going to have a return on investment, meaning are they going to lose all of their money? And that is where a feasibility study comes in. It helps investors to decide whether that money that they are giving you is viable. It also determines the size and the scope of the potential target market. Okay, so after a feasibility study has been done, you then do a written report. The final product is called the written report, and the written report includes the market area characteristics. Now remember, wherever your site is going to be, it's almost like you need to have I would almost go and say 5-kilometer radius, and you need to look at what is going on and what is happening around me in that 5-kilometer area radius. What is the characteristics of the market area? Who is in that area? The age, the profile, what do they like, what don't they like, all those kind of things. Do an evaluation of the site and the area. Competition in that radius. Who's my competition? What do they do? What type of facility are they? A demand analysis. What is the target area or the market around you? What do they want? What is in demand in that area? What proposed facilities and services do you want to offer? What menus do you want to give? What type of restaurant do you want to have? Those kind of things. And then obviously very important, financial estimates. How much money do I need? Then lastly, with regards to financing, it's obviously all about financing. Investors of that finances the new hotel must carefully look at these components. Now we have hard costs and we have soft costs. Now this is very easy to understand. A hard cost It's literally something that you can touch. Okay? It is things like the land on which the hotel is built. So the physical land that the hotel is being built on. It's things that you can touch, that you can see. The building, the equipment, the fixtures, the furniture, those kind of things that you have to buy. That is your hard costs. It's almost like the assets that you have. Then you have your soft costs. Now, those are obviously things that you cannot see, but it's things that you need to plan for. Those includes your pre-opening fees. Obviously, your hotel is going to have a grand special opening, so you need to plan for those pre-opening fees. You need to plan for your architectural fees, pay for the architecture and the building plans and all those kind of things, and all the other financing costs, your managerial costs and those kind of things. So there's two types of hotel financing. You have a permanent financing loan and you have a construction financing loan. Now, in a way they are similar because they are both given by the same people, and they're both a loan. The difference is how long it is. So a permanent financing loan is just it. It literally feels permanent. It's a long-term mortgage loan. Now, in America, they call it a mortgage loan. For us, it's like a home loan. So it's no longer than 25 years. Now, that is very, very long. Okay. Who gives them this loan? Normally, it's insurance companies, pension funds, and banks. Now, if a company or pension fund, a bank, or even a person, remember this is a huge amount of money, they would most likely want to become part owner or have some say in this thing if they give that large amount of money. So they provide financing, charge interest at the going rate that the loan was made, and they want to have some form of equity of the hotel. So usually they become part owners of the hotel. They want their name hooked on that name of the hotel somewhere. So that's your permanent financing loan. It's a good thing to have because you know that they won't go bankrupt. Insurance companies, banks, well, good banks don't normally go bankrupt. Then you have your construction financing loan. Construction means building, so it's almost like a form of a takeout. So they give you money while you are building. Okay, so it's also obtained from a bank or a group of banks, but it's more short term. It's not long term. The only thing is, it is approved after a permanent financing has been done. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.